My previous favourite metal for herring has been discontinued, so I've been looking for the next best replacement. While I was out chasing salmon, I was using the Iron Cany Couta casting. It's a 45 gram lure, so it's a bit heavier than the sort of herring lures that I've been going to beforehand, but it was an absolute weapon for them. I was using, I think it's called Red Eye, but it's basically like a little pilchard imitation. So I was basically using it on my salmon outfit, which is a 9-foot 2 rod and my 5000 Nasky, and I was absolutely launching it. And to my surprise, well, not really surprise, I thought it would, get the odd bycatch here and there, but it was absolutely slaying the herring. Pretty much every cast on this beach I was getting one. My usual go-to herring lures are around that sort of 10 to 20 grams or 10 to 25 grams, so I was enjoying the extra casting distance. With the heavier reel, you just got to get that drag right, and with herring it's usually pretty loose. After losing the first one, I just played around with it a little bit and got the right amount of pressure where you're able to reel the fish in but giving it a little bit of a line to take. If you're finding that herring is shaking out your metal, just keep on adjusting and eventually you'll get that right rhythm. Sometimes just your rod angle, keeping it down horizontal and keeping pressure on at all time to make sure it doesn't jump out of the water and shake out your lure. The other thing as well, as opposed to using a sort of 10 to 30 gram metal, I could get probably an extra 10-15 meters on this every cast. So if the school was sitting out a little bit further, or I was only getting little ones in close, I would cast it out and get amongst the bullies. It was a pretty hot bite, so they were fish after fish. I ended up keeping about 4 or 5, which I had for dinner that night. And then I gave the rest to, people along the beach. I originally caught a bunch that I was going to use for bait, but I'm not really much of a bait fisherman these days. I was camping, so I cooked the herring up in a delicious but simple way. Just fried up some red curry paste, a little bit of coconut milk, and then poached the herring in it. It was delish. I was pretty damn hungry after casting 6 hours for no salmon as well. And the next morning I was back out casting, and I was using the Iron Cany Couta as a sort of like prospecting lure because of the range that you get. I was up a little bit higher on the rocks here, and one thing that you'll often find if you're casting for herring off the rocks is if you're using that sort of like 10 to 15 gram lure, sometimes you have a little bit of trouble with the lure rising to the surface and just skipping across the top, which is fine when they're all frenzied up, but sometimes you need it to be a little bit further underneath the water column to be a little bit more successful. So with the Savage Gear missile being discontinued, this is probably my new go-to, or going to be my new go-to. I actually got a pretty nice tailor on it as well. Unfortunately, the batteries were dead by then on the trip, so I'm sure I'll feature in some other videos in the future. Thanks for watching. Feel free to ask any questions in the comment section, or let me know what herring metals you like to use.